Hey everyone, it's me, Malford, again, here with another behind the scenes video. Today we're talking to Jason.
How you doing, guys?
Who does VFX on Worlds Adrift. So we're going to talk all about visual effects.
Visual effects.
Yeah, that's right.
I've just realised I'm totally geeked out today because I'm actually wearing Jurassic Park. That was a total fluke. I didn't realise.
Yeah. You didn't want to show it. I mean, they might not be able to see it fully, so maybe go up a bit taller.
You know what Jurassic Park looks like.
Do you?
Yeah. You know,
these are children.
Oh,
they might think it's Jurassic World.
True. Oh.
They'll be like in the comments going, oh no.
No.
Jurassic World.
He's a loser, isn't he, if he likes that.
Yeah. Absolutely. I don't think so.
No.
Okay. So, obviously, you know, VFX is an important part of any feature. So when a new feature's going in and someone comes to you and says, make the VFX for this, what's the usual process behind that?
So a designer like yourself will come up to me and goes, I've designed this new feature, character, model, whatever, for the game, but it needs some kind of, you know, effect to bring it to life. So the idea is I will then take your design, and then usually an artist has already done a pass on it, and so it's like, say it's like a model, say it's like I don't know, like a character who's got like some magic spell. Yeah. Then what I would do is look at the animation, look at the character, and then I would then concept up what it would look like. Yeah. Usually that's either done on paper or more or less. Sometimes I just literally just jump into the actual software itself and start using the VFX tools within the actual program. Okay. And that's it really. That's really the initial part. So it's and then just come up with what we call a concept or a first pass, which is just like, have a look at this. Is this what you're looking for? Yeah. And then if it's yes, then I continue to iterate on top of that.
You get a bit of a sort of back and forth. People give you feedback.
Yeah. And then it's kind of like the whole process is like a layering process. So I start off with like what they call an emitter, and the emitter is like the very base object of a particle system, which technically is like a firework. It's just something that just fires loads of like little particles, what we call particles, into the sky, and then I have to sit there and use all the different attributes and behaviors that's within the VFX program, and I change it, and I add texture, and I add lights, and I add timing and behaviors, and then increase that. And then once I get that, then I add the next one, then the next one, the next one, until eventually I get the final effect for that object or that scene or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. And when you talk about the software that you use, are you doing this all within Unity, or do you use separate plugins or separate software?
Predominantly for this project, it's all in Unity. Okay. Unity's got a really good particle system called Shuriken, and it's very advanced. Right. It's actually quite easy to use. Okay. I say that because I've been doing VFX for a while, so it is very easy to use if you're doing VFX for a while. Some programs are really horrible, and then obviously other stuff is really good. And it's a real nice balance because it's not the most powerful, but what you get out of it is really good results really fast. Right. Yeah. Okay. And being the only kind of VFX artist on the game, fast is good.
Yeah, you to churn out.
And I can turn out loads of stuff. So everything from like fire and wind and rain, all the way through explosions, and even some of the magic stuff that you've seen in the game already, to do with all the kind of the gauntlet and stuff like that. So so it allows me to create a broad spectrum of effects very quickly and very easily. Okay, cool. And you talked a little bit about it being quite easy to use. Shuriken versus some of the other softwares that you've used in the past. Yeah. Do you think generally those softwares have all sort of moved along in line with that, or are there still some that feel a bit outdated or a bit hard to use? I think because Unity is a relatively new piece of software. I mean, I say that it's only been around for like properly in its current form best 5 years. So all its kind of tools are kind of like streamlined and clean. Yeah. And some of the other software, even though they are a bit more tricky, they probably could do a lot more. Right. Yeah. But they're kind of old, and there is certain, you know, it just takes longer to get the same kind of effects and quality.
I guess it's a thing you have sometimes with sort of software that's been around for a long time, like you have with maybe Maya, where everything's built on top of everything else. Yeah. So you have this sort of, you know, incredibly broad software that can do everything, but is really difficult to actually figure out exactly how to get those results. Exactly.
And the nice thing about Unity is it's clean and easy in the sense that it's fast and you can get stuff really quick. But because of that usability, it might not be able to do some of the more advanced stuff that, say, like something like the Unreal Engine can do, because it's been around for a long time and it's got more broader like tool set.
Yeah.
But it's actually harder to construct your effects as quick.
Okay.
So yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah. And I think one of the things about Worlds Adrift, it has quite a unique art style. It's influenced by a lot of things. I mean, a lot of things that it probably looks most like are more from the from sort of animated film perspective, maybe. And do you take that into account when you're doing the VFX?
So, like any project, like you, when you do effects, you can't just go in and just make effects. You have to look at the actual art style and the kind of, even like, not even just the art style, but like, what is the world involved? So is it magical or is it more realistic and stuff like that? So you have to cater your VFX to match that. You couldn't just like do like, say, you couldn't use like VFX from like, say, a first person shooter like Call of Duty inside this game because it would just jar and it would look completely wrong. But at the same time, Worlds Adrift, even though it's a little bit more, so we say, like you say, more anime or cartoony in its aesthetics, it's still based on realistic, what do you call it, physics and stuff like that. So I can't go magical because magical, even though we've used some of that for some of the lore, the majority of the effects have to still be physically correct. They have to react correctly to gravity. They have to, like the fire and stuff and the explosions and everything still have to feel like proper explosions, but wrapped in the kind of the aesthetic of Worlds Adrift. So that's it. And that's my job, is to get that balance right between the actual kind of realistic stuff and then the kind of cartoony stuff, and then kind of blend it together. Kind of like how they do it on Zelda. Kind of like they've got that kind of same thing. Everything feels real and it feels weighted and it feels like it's grounded within that world. So that's the kind of thing. That's what I have to try and aim for, and that's what hopefully I'm doing right now.
I hope so too. So we've touched briefly on some parts of the process of making VFX. Is there anything you can demonstrate to show the pipeline a little bit?
Yeah, I could do that. So what I was saying before is VFX is about layering and timing. It's about starting off and then gradually adding more and more and more. And what I say about timing is like a lot of it is to do with like how fast something moves, or even like how it offsets. So even like delaying, like when like say an explosion hits, first of all you have the actual explosion, then you have dust, particles, and then it all dies off and whatever. So in fact I'll show an example here because we've got I've got an explosion which will probably do the same thing. So let's try this one here. So this, right, okay, so that went straight in. So I'll redo that again. So this is a simple explosion in the game. I'll actually slow it right down and I'll break down all the layers on it. So what I'll do, Unity allows me to slow it right down. Right, so we have, as you can see here, there's lots of fire and explosion and central parts and smoke and sparks flying off, and then it all dies off, and then at the end there's some debris. I mean, not debris, embers. Okay, so the process is, so if I do this, and if I open up this little bank here, you might not be able to see it. Inside each of the particles I've got here, I have like what they call emitters, and each emitter represents a part of the explosion that's going off at certain points. So I could break this all down, but it'd be easier just to show this. So as I've got here, I've got the central glow. So the central glow this is the main part. This is the bit that fires off. This is like the impact point. The next thing I've got sparks that are coming off. Okay, so that's adding that. I then have what I call red fireball and white fireball. Now if I play this through, and you'll see. Right. So so the central glow has died away, but it's leaving the actual red fireball, and so what I mean, the kind of orangey stuff, and the white hot part in the middle. And as you can see here, there's this kind of heavy black smoke behind as well. So these are all kind of offset timing. So you've got the impact, then all of this stuff, then all of behind, and then I've got, like, as you can see, it's a bit wibbly, so I've got a heat haze over the top of that. So this is all layered on top of each other. It's like a massive stack of effects, and they're all kind of working with each other to achieve this. And if I carry on playing it through, as you can see, it's all dying away. The colour is bleeding out, it's fading off. the white's now gone, and it's now leaving just the hot, just like normal fire stuff, and then all the sparks, and then eventually, with the timing goes, just leaves the smoke. And this is all the timing. You just set all the timings off with different, just basically different delays, and then eventually it just leaves the embers, and that, in a very short one, is how you put like an explosion together. So if I just show that again, and it all happens in like literally a second.
Boom.
All right.
Nice.
And that is a very quick, but very thorough of how you put a VFX together. And then you've got stuff like, so I can show another quick one here. So that's the actual impact, but sometimes you've got to work out the actual, say the firing. So say like we've got like cannons on the game.
Yep.
So I've been working on how to get the cannons to work. So they've got obviously got to have a muzzle flash, they've got to have a projectile which flies out, and then at the end of it is an impact. So that's 3 separate particle systems that all have to work together. So obviously this is not in the game yet, but hopefully it will be very soon.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. This is the. So I'll show you here. So I've got a. That's not it.
Bit of fire.
That's the wrong one.
Good.
It is under test models. Here we go. Okay, cannon. So let me find the cannon. Here we go.
There it is.
Here's my very basic cannon. And
Very nice.
in the far wall is a big wall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this very quickly, and then I'll break it down again. All right. So muzzle flash, central cannon, and start.
Boom.
Boom, boom, boom.
Beautiful.
Okay. So again, it's all. I'll just find a better view for it so we can see it, and do it again, and restart. Boom. All right, so what you saw there was the muzzle flash, the actual projectile and the trajectory, and then the actual impact. Again, I'll just quickly slow it down. Actually, maybe too slow. 3. Okay, restart, and then we can just actually
Some slow motion torpedoes.
I'll do it even slower, and we can chase one.
Very
Okay.
nice.
All right, so as you can see, they're flying through the air, they're leaving the trails as they're doing it, and then I've got an impact collision. So once it connects with the actual wall, they will all then fire off the impact explosions. So get in there. There. So pretty much that's 3 systems all working together as one, and then obviously the smoke then will dissipate as well. So again, that's same process as I did before. I have to build it all up, add your layers, and then you move on to the next part. How does it react? How does it do this and that? And that, in a nutshell, is VFX.
Very nice.
Yes. And it isn't all just explosions and stuff like that. There's all
mostly explosions though.
No, actually, it's more environmental stuff. It's like the rain stuff. There's like the propellers.
Yeah.
All of that stuff. Stuff that it just seems like, it's a little bit more humdrum, normal stuff. I mean, the explosion stuff and all the magical stuff, all the nice, pretty stuff, but you still got all the kind of like just the everyday kind of like dust and smoke and all that stuff has to go into it as well to bring the world to life. So I've got like you've seen like the birds. I've got these really nice birds that will be coming into the game. That adds a bit more life to it and stuff. But that again, it's not just it's just adding life and texture to the Was Adrift environment.
Very nice. So there's one of the things you sort of briefly half mentioned there was that there's a lot more that you've got done waiting to go in. So there's a certain amount of time that you'll spend on your typical piece of VFX, and then you're waiting for something else to implement, right? So what would you say that normally there's sort of how long would it normally take you to finish your part of it?
Okay, so it depends. So it depends what I'm doing. If I'm doing something like, say like I just did the projectile stuff, that would take me maybe a week because it's like 3 unique particle systems that have to work together in tandem. And then maybe like something like the fire, maybe like the what do you call it, the fire itself, what's got the campfire. Yeah, that might take me a day. Okay, because it just sits. What I call it's just fire and forget. You just stick it down there, nothing happens. It just doesn't have to do anything. Yeah. So that can be quickly done, pretty fast. But like something like this, like the when it has impacts or it has any kind of knock-on effects, you have to make sure that all the timings tie up and it feels nice and it feels right. So a lot of the time you can put an effect together and then you look at it and then you just go, oh, there's something off. I can't figure it out. And then you have to go through, meticulously through each of the emitters and figure out where the timings are off. And also, particles can be quite heavy. So part of my job is to have what they call optimization, is to make sure that they're running as efficient as possible, and there's no kind of extra bloat or any kind of leftover particles that could cause, like, so if you can imagine, like, if there's a big old battle going on and there's loads of guys firing these cannons, I want to make sure that the game is running as fast as possible, because I don't want last thing is that all my particles going off and then the thing just grinds to a halt.
Exactly.
I get shouted at, and I don't like being shouted at.
Bad, isn't it? So obviously then once you're finished with the effect, it's got to go to somebody on the code team to actually put it into the game. And in your experience, is that quite a complex task, or is it just sort of a matter of finding the time amongst the team for that stuff?
I think it's complex in the sense that Worlds is a big game, and you know, with spatial and stuff like that, it needs to work not just locally, but it has to work also in the game world. So if something happens on your side of it, the other players can see it happening as well. So that, I think, is the tough part, because once they give it to a programmer, they then have to obviously build it in, and they have to pipe it into the actual game and make sure that it works as it should work everywhere. And I think that's the big thing about Worlds. Is like, it's not like a traditional game where you kind of like, it's a one player, or it's like a first person like environment where you just like put it all in and it just happens. We have to make sure that it works across the whole World universe in how it should do, because you just never know. You could have like 2 people in there, you could have like 100 people, and it has to happen at the same time. All the time in that thing. So so that's the tricky part. I mean, for my part, it can be a bit frustrating, because I've done something and I've banked it and I've put it to one side for a couple of months, and then someone goes, oh, you've got to do this, it's going to be here. But a lot of the time it's, you know, it's ready to go. It just needs to be sure that when we pull it in, it doesn't break the game, or it looks broken, and then everyone like yourselves are just going to go, it looks rubbish. So
I guess like one example of that is if we looked at the cannonball effect you just showed. You've got the smoke trail that follows them, and obviously there might be some, because of the way that the client and the server setup is slightly different, there might be some differences there, which might mean that when it goes into the game, you'd end up with sort of one bit of the smoke trail sort of maybe getting a bit jaggedy here and there, that kind of stuff, maybe? So
exactly it. So that's what we're talking about, like the whole iteration going back and forth. So once it's in the game, I can then see it, and then maybe I have to redesign it again because it doesn't work. The technology doesn't allow it, or there's something there that it looks really nice on my screen because it's on a local machine, but then once it goes into spatial and it's then going across the whole thing, so I would then have to go away and then come up with another idea and another way to do it. And but that's I think sometimes that's the frustrating part of it as well. Is like, it takes a while, you get it in there, you do your changes, but then you've got to wait a while to actually see it in the actual game. And I think that's probably the toughest part about making, well, anything, I think, for this game. It just, everything has to be sure, it has to be checked, it has to make sure that it works 100%, not just on your machine, on everyone's machine within the world.
That's it, because everyone's playing in the same world together.
Exactly.
So when you're working in VFX, you probably, you know, you're saying you find some of that stuff quite frustrating, but is there maybe like some stuff you could talk about where things maybe don't go quite according to plan, which is like a good thing or funny or
I think the one thing with VFX is because it's quite an organic process. It just, you don't always start off with exactly what you want, because you have to build it up, and a lot of time you do get what we call happy accidents, which is just something happens or something breaks and it gives you a totally different result. Something that's really like unexpected and really nice, and you just suddenly go, that's not a bug, that's a feature.
It looks great.
And then you just kind of like use that. I think that's the one thing, I think especially with VFX, is because you spend a lot of time experimenting. It's not an exact science in the sense that you kind of pull it in and it looks exactly that. You spend a lot of time messing about, twiddling, trying textures, trying different things, colours, lights, that you do. And I think that's part of the rewarding part of it, because sometimes you just get stuff that does. I would never have thought of that, just because I've accidentally deleted something, or I've just changed the number and it's like, okay, that looks great. If I tell anyone that I didn't do that, I just kind of messed up and it worked, sort of thing. I mean, that's the great thing, so that's the nice thing about it. That's the reporting part of it, and I think, like I say, yeah, I think that's a nice part of it. Is the actual making VFX is really cool, and then sometimes you just do stuff and it's just like, wow, that's just incredible.
It works.
Yeah,
cool. All right. Well, thank you for sitting down with me.
No problem, Malford.
It's
always a pleasure.
It's been a lovely conversation.
Absolutely.
And thank you for watching at home. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you click the like button. If you want to see more videos, you can subscribe. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter. We're not on Vero.
Not yet.
Not yet, no. We're waiting until we have to pay for it before we can go on Vero. Alright, well, thank you for watching. I love you. See you later.
See you later. Bye.
Bye. Easy.
Alright.
Cool.
Alright, mate. Nice one.
Safe.
I like talking about myself.
Just like me.